everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Storytelling Chronicles. I'm your host, the Bodacious Cowboy. Let's get this story started. Say what?
Look out! Pop, pop, it's showtime. Showtime. Guess who's back again? Oh, they don't know. Oh, they don't know. I bet they know as soon as we walk in. Showed up. I'm wearing Cuban links. Designer mix. Inglewood's finest shoes. Don't look too hard, might hurt yourself. Known to get the color red, the blues. Woo, shit. I'm a dangerous man with some money in my pocket. Keep up. So many pretty girls around me and they're waking up the rocket. Keep up.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Storytelling Chronicles. I am the Bodacious Cowboy. It is Monday, November 20th. I have a great show in store for you. I have a friend that I actually met at the Broker Carrier Summit in Tampa several weeks back. I'm going to bring him in. His name is Floyd Wilcox. Sorry about that. Bringing him right now. Floyd, how are you? I can't believe that I almost forgot your name. I'm like, what the hell? But,
happens to me every day.
Hey, you know what? Thank you so much for joining me this week. I know that it's a short week and that you're probably catching up on a lot of things before you take off on Thursday. You'll probably be back in work on Friday, either at your house or at the office. I'm pretty sure about that.
Oh, yeah. The work never ends, you know.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So for those out there who do not know who Floyd is, tell them a little bit about yourself.
Well, I have been in the trucking business, I guess. I'm 42 years old, so I've been in it for about 41 years. My career started, I guess you could say, riding to Quebec every morning with my father in the truck. He had me strapped in the passenger seat and in my carrier, and that's where it all started. And I never get rid of it. Now, I graduated high school, started driving the next day. I got my Class A actually when I was 17 before I could even legally drive. And it just continued from there. I drove for some other people. My father and I had a small company for a little while, a few years. And then I went to work, hauling wood, what we call hauling wood up here in the Northeast. And then I went to work for a company called Treeline Incorporated in Lincoln, Maine. Right. And I've been there ever since. Now, currently, I am the fleet manager for Treeline. And we also have another entity that we started here a while back called North Star Transport. And I actually own that.
Nice.
So there's a lot of stuff going on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure with the housing market, the way that it is right now, I would say that probably hauling wood is a little on the light side right now, right?
It is. Yeah. Up here, I mean, we have all kinds of lumber mills up here. We only have a few paper mills left. As the years go by, they seem to dwindle away. So, yeah, the logging side of things is definitely not what it used to be.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't see anything that's coming up in the very near future that's going to make that change, unfortunately. From all the trend analysis that I've seen out there, the periodicals, the articles, I'm sure that you've read, probably a plethora of them as well. And when you're trying to make your own perception of what's going on, pretty much everybody is on the same page. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's the paper business itself is a dying thing. You know, the world doesn't use paper like they used to. Some of the mills are obviously still hanging on, and I'm sure there'll be some that will hang on forever because there'll always be, there'll be some sort of need for paper or tissue, obviously. But 10 years ago, right? 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I mean, we had a lot of mills up here in the Northeast between Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, even in Massachusetts. And they'll dwindle away. They'll close down. We lost a major mill up here in Verso Paper. That must have been, I forget, exactly, but 4 or 5 years ago, it actually blew up. And no talk about rebuilding. There was a little bit here and there, but once it blew up and shut down, that was it. They run for a little while on, I forget what it's called now. Anyways, they continued to run a little while the best they could afterwards, after the digester blew up, but it didn't work out. they closed it down. That was a huge hit for this whole region, really. That mill pulled wood in from Quebec, Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and sometimes even Pennsylvania when they had a bad need for wood, you know.
Yeah, I had a big customer. They were called Bartas Printing, and they were outside of Philadelphia. And one of the reasons is they shut down because, as you said, about the paper, newspaper, and everything that you can think of that paper is utilized in.
Mhm.
It's all on the internet now. I mean,
Right.
do we still have our newspapers? Yeah, we had the Bergen Record from Bergen County, New Jersey. They used to be a big, huge provider of newspapers. I mean, everybody is going online. It's cheaper. When you think about the tooling that goes into the printing presses and the cost of doing that, where now the journalists and everybody out there can now put everything that you need to know, everything you need to know on the web.
Right.
There's really no need for that. But still, there's building materials, and
Mhm.
like you were saying, wood goes into a hell of a lot of industries
Yeah.
besides just homes. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, how is that affecting you? How much are you down as a percent? I mean, everybody's down, right?
Yeah. On the tree line side of things, on the forestry part of our business, we are so diversified into so many different things that, of course, it hurt. Logging used to be the biggest thing that we did, and it's not like that anymore.
Right.
We have many other things that we do. On the North Star side of things, we split that off from tree line a year or so ago to handle what we call our over the road business.
Mhm.
So that's our flatbed work. That's our lumber hauling. We do haul a little bit of paper. We do things like that. So yeah, to answer your question, I mean, percentage, I don't know. That's a hard thing. Tree line's been in business for 40 years. So, and like I said, we're so diversified, it would be a hard thing to put an actual percentage on. But I would say probably at the time when the J mill blew up, it was probably at least 50% of our business, if I had to put a number on it. I mean, it was a huge hit.
Yeah.
We had multiple crews in the woods. We had probably, between our own trucks and hire trucks, we probably had 30 to 40 trucks hauling wood, and going to that mill was a big part of it. We also had 2 satellite yards, wood yards, up in northern Maine that we bought wood into, or the mill bought wood into, and we managed. And when the mill was low on wood, or come springtime when you couldn't get in the woods and things like that, then we'd send all the trucks to haul out of the yards to the mill to keep the mill supplied, so the mill could run 24/7. So yeah, it was a huge hit. Right around, it was before that, but when things started looking not so great in the logging business, that's when we get into other things.
Yeah.
Like the flatbed business and hauling a little bit of paper, things like that. I headed that up from the beginning because I had past experience, prior experience in that type of work. So, but between that and in the just diversifying more and more and more all the time. I mean, we do I could probably sit here for a half an hour and list off the things that we do that we've had to diversify and do to keep the company alive for the percentage of business that we've lost in logging.
Right. And, I used to own a lot of horses, and one of the biggest businesses out there, and it is in Canada, is the shavings business.
Yep.
Where they would take, after they got done at the mill, all those shavings they would brought to a manufacturer, and they would put them in like 4 cube bags that they would ship down in truckloads from Canada into the States. I'm sure that those manufacturers that relied heavily on the logging industry and those mills being up, they must be down as well.
Yeah. Everything collectively across the board is, anything to do with cutting a tree is not what it used to be. It's crazy. We haul a lot of lumber, and OSB. We haul OSB out of like Louisiana Pacific and Huber and those mills like that. And we do good. We do great with it. Is it what it was? No, nothing is. But as the housing market goes up and down, so does that.
Yeah, no, and that's true, because I was going to ask you, since that was your niche, what kind of other verticals are you moving into? I know that you mentioned the flatbeds and all that, but what kind of product lines that did you switch from? Because since you're down 50% on the
Yep.
wood, moving that lumber. What are you doing now?
We have got into all kinds of different things. We actually haul some bulk water for Poland Spring, which is owned by Blue Triton. We have a couple of guys that haul Flowboy trailers in the construction market, doing hot top and things like that. We upped our construction business a lot. So we have, at the 4 or 5 years ago, we might have had a couple of dump trucks. Now we have, I don't even know, 8 or 10 of them probably, or something like that. Just a shift, just shifting, it's some of this stuff is stuff that we've always done, but
Right.
on a much smaller scale. So as we decided to diversify to keep the company alive, we just, a lot of those things, we got into some new things too, but a lot of those things that we've always done on a small scale is all of a sudden a big part of our business.
Yeah, and you mentioned North Star Transportation and logistics. What do you do on the logistics side outside the transportation side?
So that's kind of that's a bit of a quirky name because we do have a brokerage too. It's actually a separate company. To make a long story short, when we first created that, we didn't know at that moment that you couldn't still have a broker and a carrier under the same MC. So the plan was to get, our brokerage is called Main Transport. So the plan was to get rid of that and roll it all into one. And then after after the fact, we learned you couldn't do that anymore. So on the North Star side of things, we are just a carrier. We do have a brokerage, like I said, it's called Main Transport. Probably at some point I'll drop the in logistics off the end of that. You know what I mean? But this year there's been way too much going on to worry about that. So
right.
As far as on the brokerage side of things, I don't like just try to farm out stuff. I try to work with my group, my network. I'm not the type of guy that takes 50 loads from somebody and just tries to farm them out on the load board. That's not how I do it.
No.
We have up here in Maine, it's a pretty small community up here, really. So everybody knows each other. So I rely on a couple, 2 or 3 other carriers, and probably a half dozen, 6, 7, 8, what we call hire trucks, owner operators that have their own authority. So we're using the same network all the time. And I spend a lot of time trying to build that network. So that way, we trust who the loads are on.
Sure. Now, do you have your authority? Do you have your authority both in the States and in Canada?
We can go. Yes, New Brunswick. We don't do Quebec. I don't have Quebec authority.
Right, but you can bring shipments in from Canada into the States. Can you move stuff within the continental U.S.?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know a lot of Canadian companies out there. They just have the authority to bring in or pull into Canada, but not in the continental U.S. So that's good. So at least you have some diversification. Now, with the trucking industry, and we'll get into the carrier broker tensions shortly. But have you shortened your length of haul to become more of regional, super regional, because it's more profitable for your company?
Yes, very much. I don't think we've sent a truck beyond probably Harrisburg, Pennsylvania in close to a year. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have quite a little niche. All of our flatbeds are triaxle, so we haul 100,000 pounds on them.
Okay.
So our niche is just New England. We can do that within New England. We can haul that weight, and all of our flatbeds have log stakes, removable log stakes. So what we'll do is we will haul a load of lumber or a load of OSB or something like that down to Massachusetts, New Hampshire, even into Connecticut, and then we will reload logs, pine logs or hardwood logs, to bring back up here to the sawmills. So that's our niche, and that's the biggest part of our business. We do obviously mix in some other things. And like I mentioned, we do haul, a few loads of paper here and there and things like that. But yeah, when everything started going south, through the COVID thing, we sent trucks to California. We had people calling us.
A ton of money.
Yeah, we had people calling us, asking us if we'd run out to California. And once we get out there, if we'd bring a load of, I think the best one was a load of pecans or something like that. We brought them back to Hannaford in southern Maine. And it was like $11,000 to do it. I said,
Of course,
sure.
$5 a mile
Yeah,
or something like
I'll
that.
turn him and run him right back out with another load and bring another one back for you. No problem, you know. But
Yeah.
when things started going south after, you know, after COVID ended and the economy started going down, we reined everybody in. And I wouldn't send a truck now, and unless there's a reason for it. You know, if somebody I know needs something picked up, or if it's something they're willing to pay decent on, I'll send them out after it. But
Yeah, as long as
Yeah,
it's a
you know.
continuous move and you're keeping your assets moving. You know, I used
Right.
to call it like a triangulation
Yep.
when I was doing some fleet moves. And, you know, I knew where they were going and I always had continuous move from A, B to C, back to A again.
Right.
And I'm not a transactional broker by any means. I'm more of a dedicated,
Mhm.
consistent, sustainable type business
Yep.
for that simple reason: building that loyalty, building
Right.
that long-term business relationship,
Right.
and getting to know everybody that's involved, and
Mhm.
building that corral of carriers, because you know they're leaning heavily on you to support them, and then likewise, and that's how we're building, not for today, but actually for when the market changes into 2024. We
Right.
want to try to set ourselves up in position A, as I call it, because they'll be there for us when that market changes. When you're doing that transactional type, it's a hit or miss. The risks are high, the loyalty's not there, and you're surely not going to build a long-term business relationship from that type of model. You know, so that's why we try to keep away from that. Is that the same kind of thing that you're doing as well?
It is. That's the exact same thing I do. We treat our, you know, I refer to them as hire trucks. It may, you know, it may be a guy with one truck. It may be we have a small carrier up the road a little ways from us that I rely on, and they're great people. You know, they have 10, 12 trucks.
Mm,
But I treat all of our hired trucks just like they were one of my own. You know,
nice.
I'm not the type of guy to, you know, if things get tight, I'm not going to send the hired trucks home to keep my guys working. You know, if it's down, we're all, you know, we're collectively down. If it's up, then we're all collectively up. It's like you said, it's all about the relationship. You
Oh,
know, I'm not out searching for loads on the load board just to move a truck, and that's not how I do it.
no, I hardly even look at the load boards. You know?
Right.
Um, I hate to say for the audience that's out there listening and stuff like that. I mean, I just consider the load boards the bottom feeders.
Yep.
You know, and I'm not one of those kind of people. You know, I'm not in a position where I have no choice, but I have to do that.
Mhm.
But I'm fortunate. I say I'm fortunate. I'm grateful. It is Thanksgiving. I'm grateful for everything that's happened to me and the choices that I made.
Mhm.
I don't blame anybody else. And my business is up, like, going to be probably at the end of the year, probably 50 or 60% year over year from last year, which is a good place to be compared to what's happening out there in the market and all these closures that are happening. I mean, you and I both read that all the time. It just seems something that's a consistent, and would you call it a bloodbath? Yeah, I think it's somewhat of a bloodbath. I mean,
Absolutely.
you know, it's something that nobody really thought was going to happen, and a lot of the carriers who didn't budget appropriately during the pandemic,
Mm.
it's going to last forever.
Yeah.
Those funds are gone.
Yeah.
Those funds are gone.
Yeah.
The loans are astronomical. I mean, you know, truck sales, all that kind of stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
these people, as I would put it, would be one break away from going bankruptcy. I
Yep.
mean, seriously, because they're only making pennies on the mile, if anything at all, with their operating ratio. You know, just trying to keep these assets moving. That's why I asked you about whether or not you were moving your assets more into a regional, super regional area compared to long haul. And I see that a lot. And I'm sure that with the connections that you have, you see that a lot as well. And the long haul people that are moving cross country, they're paying a little bit more because the capacity is kind of tightening up a little bit in that area because of that. But
well, the market is flushing itself right now. I mean, through the COVID craze, you know, a lot of people went into the business that probably never should have gone into the business, to be frank. And a lot of people that were already in the business just went ballistic. I mean, you know, I had many people ask me, geez, why don't you hire more drivers and buy 10 more trucks and this and that? And nope, because it's not going to last. It can't. You know, the economy can't sustain these prices. They can't sustain to pay us to go from Maine to, New York City and pay us $6,000 to do it. You know what I mean? It's bogus. It's twice as much as it would have been before, and it will be half that when it shakes out, and that's where we're at.
Right. And we're going in for the long haul, Floyd. I mean,
Yep.
we have at least another, I would say, 6+ months at a
Mhm.
minimum,
Yep.
if at best, before this market happens to switch. And Jason Miller, you would follow him?
No.
Well, he's a professor at Michigan University, and he's all over the place. I mean, this guy is so data analytical. It's unbelievable. A lot of people do follow him. And, the conversations that he's had, the posts that he's put out there, there's not one single vertical that you can say, aha, this is going to be the vertical that's going to make the market switch. It's just not there. It's nowhere to be present. Everything is down. It's a horrible place to be. And I really feel sorry, not just for the logisticians that are out there, but the carriers, the drivers, what's happening to them. It's really, really bad.
Yeah. Yep.
So let's talk about the carrier and broker tensions. Been going on for decades.
Yeah.
What do you think the main issue is? And let's not throw out the shipper, because the shipper has a lot to do with that as well. So what are your thoughts on that?
Trust. It all comes back to trust. Just like anything else in this world, there's been so many people burned, so many people lied to, so many people, it's a cutthroat business. And unfortunately, that's the norm. And that's where a lot of the tension comes from, even from the shipper, because the shipper doesn't want to be involved in that stuff. They play the games too, though. You know what I mean? When they really need you, you're their best friend. But when they don't, and things go back to a little slower, a little normal, a lot of the shippers are just as happy just to, farm whatever they have out to some big broker, because they know they're going to take care of it. And then, you try to talk to that broker and you get the runaround. But that's what it all comes back to, is trust. That's the main ingredient. And that's what has ruined and caused a lot of the tensions.
Yeah. I mean, integrity, honesty, transparency, to name a few.
Yep.
Where the shippers really don't understand what's going to happen to them when they do this kind of idiotic moves, because one, if they have incumbent carriers, they're not taking care of their incumbent carriers, and they start chasing the almighty dollar to the bottom, they're going to lose that trust. Like you said, huge, right? Loyalty is not going to be there. But when that market changes and they go back to the incumbent carriers that they screwed, if I was an incumbent carrier and if I was you and you had a big account and they were doing that, I would tell them to go F themselves.
Yep.
What have you done for me lately? Where was the loyalty when I was suffering and I was supporting you?
Right.
Where were you?
Right.
What did you do for me lately? That, because you have a void now, because the market switched, and you want me to fill that automatically because I used to do business with you? Oh, hell no.
Yeah.
No. And what they think that they're saving right now, they're going to spend more in the backside of that, thinking that they're savings, because they're going to have to go to RFPs, they're going to have to reinvent the wheel, they're going to have to start establishing these loyalties. There's going to be mistrust because they don't understand the operation. Likewise, I mean, both how the consignee works, the shipper works, the operations, the logistics operations. I mean, we could just go on and on and on, and they don't realize that. And then what happens is that when they try to get those lowest rates, they lied to the broker. And it's like the grapevine. You tell a broker one thing and it's not true, and then the broker's saying, man, I got to make a lot of money and everything. I know it takes 3.5 hours to load. I'm going to tell the driver it's an hour.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
And then since it's a fast load, instead of 3,000, can you do it for 2,200? Something like that. Oh, yeah, really fast load, everything. So if the guy's kind of like deadheading and driving all these deadhead miles to get over to, the shipper, and they just drove 80 miles because it was pretty good for them, I guess. And they get there and they're sitting and they're sitting and they're sitting, or you think they're going to say, I'm not taking a load and drive off? high probability they're going to sit there. They're there. They'll take the load, make whatever they can, but you're not
Right.
going to have that trust, that loyalty,
Right.
you know,
Right.
at all. And honestly, they'll never do business with you again.
Yep.
It's a great way to end a relationship.
Yep. And you're 100% right. And it all, like I said, it all comes back to trust,
Yeah.
trust and transparency.
Oh, absolutely. So, what did you think about the Tampa Broker Carrier Summit? What was your takeaways, the key takeaways from that event?
My key takeaway is it's very refreshing to find a room full of people that think the same way I do. You know what I mean? Why fight it? Why cut throats? Just if everybody works together, the ship goes up. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
I went to the first one in Indianapolis,
Yeah.
and that was a totally different setup than Tampa was. It was like a pilot to gauge interest, as Dan says. But even that, I left Indianapolis and I think I actually went to Dan's office the next day and met him there, saw his operation. And that was one of my first questions. When are we doing it again? What can I do? How can I help? Where are we going to do this? How many times are you going to do this? And of course, he didn't have all the answers at that moment. It was literally the next day, but it unfolded and we ended up in Tampa, and I actually sponsored that event, and I will sponsor the next one.
Awesome.
And I hope it continues to grow. I hope it pulls in more people and engages more interest, because you go to that and you don't have to wonder what the person next to you is thinking. I always protect what I have, but I don't feel like I can't talk to the person sitting next to me about it, because I have a feeling if they're there, if they spent the money to go there, they made that investment, then I want to believe that they're there for the right reasons. So, it's great. I think it's fantastic.
I know. Yep. I said the same thing. And one of the biggest things, and you'll probably laugh at this, is that everybody's a tough ass on email. But when you're in front of somebody, you don't necessarily say what you would say in an email.
Right.
And that kind of calls that person out.
Yeah.
And it's great if you're a broker and one of your carriers is at that event.
Yep.
And you've had problems. What a great opportunity to really iron it out. Sit down, have a cocktail. Hey, man, let's figure out why we're so disgruntled and why we have a huge disconnect. And what can we do as a team? We're in this together. I'm making money. You're making money. We're taking care of the same customer. How can we come to some common agreement that's going to benefit us both? Right.
And probably what's going to happen from that is you're probably going to end up, creating a good relationship, and you're both going to make money. I mean, that's the name of the game. That's why we're all here. We're not, it's partially a hobby, I suppose, but the name of the game is to make money.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
The reception, and I was talking to another gentleman last week, actually, Nate Johnson. Yeah, Nate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I had that conversation with him. I said, it was really interesting that first night at the reception. I said, it was like North and South poles. You had the brokers on one side, you had the carriers on the other side. After a few cocktails, everybody just started collaborating and they started coming together.
Right.
It wasn't a beef. It was more of an understanding. And from that, it just took off the next 2 days.
Yep.
And they just started hanging out. They had dinner together. They were just like interacting, like we just became best friends.
Right.
I didn't know you that well because we've always communicated email or on a cell, and we never had that opportunity to meet each other because we were, out Jersey, you're in California, or vice versa, or whatever, and now we had this opportunity to iron out. And that's what I thought was one of the biggest takeaways, that there was a much better understanding. And that's why we're trying to grow the next one in Kansas City. I'm on the committee this time because I believe in it. I want to get 1,000 people to go there. I mean, that's my own personal goal, and I do everything that I possibly can to make that happen because I believe in the summit. I believe in what Dan and Troy and Robert have been doing with it to start off. But I know for a fact that because of the growth, you have to be able to scale. They just didn't have the heads to do that.
Right.
you know, to make sure that it will go smoothly and it will grow and it will meet everybody's expectation, because we have to be all for everyone, you know.
Right.
And that's the biggest challenge right now. And I
Mhm.
told him, I said, you know what, Dan, I think you're going to need a Coliseum by the next time, because
I hope so.
that ballroom, I don't think is going to suffice. I think we'll
No.
be squeezing it out. And so we're going to have a meeting and stuff like that in the next couple of weeks. So I'm
Yeah.
sure that we're going to iron that out. But
Yeah.
it's a good team.
Mhm.
It's a good cost. Let's put it
Right.
that way.
Right. And one of the biggest things that, with them three guys and Trey too,
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
they're real. Like when I first got to Indianapolis and I walked in the room and, I was meeting people, not sure who anybody was and things like that. And then Bain walks in and I'm thinking to myself, who is this crazy bastard? You know what I mean? And as the day, as the day went on, and they were just real. They were up in front of everybody. They were just real. They were themselves. And from that moment on, I was like, holy God, these people are just like me. Why be something you're not? You just be yourself and do it. And you can tell that all of them, their heart's 100% into it. They're not trying to put on a show. They're not trying to sell something. You know what I mean? That's one of the biggest. I guess that would be another takeaway too. You could go to something like this and leave with the feeling that it was a marketing gimmick or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's not the sense. And I don't think anybody left there with the sense like of that.
No, it wasn't. It was an event where nobody was really trying to sell anything. It was
Right.
It was more of a tool to get a better understanding of the
Right.
things that are available that will pull things together and make
Right.
you communicate better.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And it's like for myself, everybody knows me as the bodacious cowboy, right?
Mhm.
And that's an act. It's a gimmick,
Yep.
as I tried to break up the week in logistics,
Mhm.
end it on a good note and make people laugh and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But on the other side of me, I'm not that person,
Yeah.
I have that switch that I can turn on and turn off and be who I need to be, especially in my business,
Mhm.
arena, because I've got people to serve, and I'm surely can't do it as the bodacious cowboy. That's for sure.
Right.
So, I'm glad that I'm part of this summit, and that I get to add and make people laugh and smile and have a little bit of fun, because everybody in this industry really needs that.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. It's a big piece of it.
Yeah, because if you're not careful, and I know this, and I've seen some really, really good people go to hell on it,
Mhm.
it will eat you up and spit you out faster than you know.
Yep.
If you don't know how to control it. And
Yep.
that's the biggest thing in logistics. Once you learn how to control the things around you,
Mhm.
and push off by the wayside the stuff that's not controllable,
Yep.
you're a much better person,
Yep.
in a much better place to really reach your goals and objectives. And
Absolutely.
that's a hard thing for a lot of people to do, especially when they have that separation anxiety, as I would call it, because they think they're all being, they can do it all, and
Right.
you can't in this industry. You need help.
And that comes back to what I said about the market shaking itself out. You like on the logistics side of things, but also on the trucking side of things. I mean, so many people come into this business in COVID, like I said, that have no business being here. And it's the people that thought they knew it all and can do it all. And we got the world by the ass, and they're getting shaken out. Unfortunately, some people, obviously that have done it right and tried to do it right, they're also getting shaken out too. And I feel for those people. But if you don't belong here, now's the time to exit.
Yeah. And one of the biggest problems that are out there, lack of training.
Right.
The lack of training. And I'm talking on the brokerage side. Yep. And I mean, I'm very boisterous about this, and I don't hold things back, but that pray and spray kind of approach to me doesn't resonate with me at all, because I was on that shipper side for 35 years and used to get harassed by brokers 35 times a day, minimum, from people that really didn't understand my business, who I was, what we did, when we did it, where we did it, and how, and it's unfortunate that they don't do that, because how can you be profitable, the way I look at it, if you don't know what you're talking about or understanding the industry that you're trying to open the door?
Right. Yeah, I won't do that. I won't try to stick my nose into something. I don't know the reefer business. I don't know the produce business. So I wouldn't try it. I don't know the hazardous materials business, or I don't know the house trailer moving business. We're always trying to grow and add to the business, but it's in the things that I understand. And
You want to
I
stay
know,
in your lane. You want to
right.
stay in your lane. Like I'm certified in food. I'm certified in hazmat. I know reefer.
Mhm.
I know food. Do I want to do it? No, just because I have that, it's just not my lane. I don't want to do it.
Right.
I have a good friend. John Brewer.
No.
Yeah, he's with CK Industries, food and stuff like that. I said, hey, John, you know what? If I ever wanted to do business with it, I know I can. And I busted chops. But I said, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to do the food. I just
Right.
don't. It's not something I would rather stay in my lane and do what I do, what I feel best.
Yep.
And that's more on the consultant side and logistics operations, because I really dig in to the operations side. I don't really talk about freight, even though I know it's a major player in what you do as a broker. But I want to understand what I'm moving and how they do things internally, which will help them out greatly. So I do things a lot different. Like I said, not transactional. I'm more dedicated, and it just fits my wheelhouse. So why would I want to go outside and play and dabble into something that I really don't want to do? Just to fill a pipeline doesn't make any sense. But there's a lot of people that do that.
And there's a lot of people that fail. Yeah, that's I like, the way I run my business is nobody that I have working for me or working with me is doing anything that I haven't done. Everything that we do, every place we haul out of, every material that we haul, I've done it. You know what I mean? And I still do. I could be talking to you today. I could be on my way to Connecticut tomorrow. I don't go on the truck very much anymore, but I do when I need to, or if I want to. And I get out, I meet the customers, I do those sorts of things, but it's all within the business that I understand.
Right. And that's what makes you laser focus. And that's how you're able to scale your business, because you're staying, like I said, staying in your lane. You know it better than the back of your hand.
Right.
Why would you want to go outside and play? You just want to master that, become that SME, as I said, the subject matter expert in that area. Yep. And that's how growth happens. Yep. Because you create that the credibility. Right. You start getting those attestments from your customers, whether downstream or upstream, and they kind of move the needle forward on your behalf without you really working, so hard to make that happen. They do it kind of for you.
Right.
Nothing better than that, my friend. Nothing better than that.
No, I'm a hands-on person. I might be in QuickBooks at this minute. I might be headed to the mill and the next, loading the trailer, or might be on the phone with the health insurance people. I like to. I'm not a pro at everything, but I like to have my hands in everything, just so I have somewhat of an understanding of it. That's
me. That's me. I don't believe in experts, because I hate the word expert, because
there's no such thing.
No, because you're a know-it-all. You don't have to read. You don't have to do anything. You already have the answers to the questions that are going to be asked. Nobody has that. Right. If you're not learning every single day in this industry, you're going to be left behind. Yep. Just learn a little bit so you have that knowledge skill base, but you don't have to be, that guy.
Right.
That guy that, I knows the dictionary inside and out and every page from what's on it. No, you don't need that.
No. That. You don't want to be the smartest guy in the room ever.
Oh, I want to be the stupidest guy. I want to be dumbass in that one. And I just want to be a sponge and just basically absorb everything that I could suck in,
Exactly.
That's just me. That's the way I love to learn. But listen, Floyd, let me just put this up. I'm going to just talk a little bit about it. If you want to chime in, please do. But as you know, we have the Broker Carrier Summit that's happening in Kansas City, Missouri on the April 22nd and 24th. This whole month, you have a little bit of a week left. We have a early bird discount special that's going on there. So go to the website, the Carrier Broker Summit Kansas City website. Look it up. And also, I will give an additional 5% off your registration if you use this code, Cowboy1. You'll get an additional 5% off that discounted rate, which is pretty damn good. So once you head on over there, take a look at it. They're building it in creating a lot more topics as we're growing the attendance. Got a lot of speakers out there, a lot of sponsors out there as well. So check it out.
Yep.
So with that said, hey, Floyd, thank you so much for joining me today. Love the conversation. Would love to have you back on in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
To talk about other things besides broker carrier tensions, but that's my focus for the next 5 months.
Yep.
Try to grow that and make this huge problem that's been going on for a few decades go away. And I think you have the same mentality as me.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So,
100%. Yep.
all right. So I
Oh.
appreciate it, man. You enjoy the rest of your week. Have a happy Thanksgiving, you and your family, and be well.
Yes, thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me on. Happy Thanksgiving.
Take care, my friend.
You too.